Okay, so we're running just a little bit late, but that's okay. I think most people look like they're getting close to finishing up their dinner. You know, Our Lady of La Leche. I'll tell you a couple of stories. Our Lady of La Leche, as I'm sure many of you know, has a particular significance to this diocese, and of course now to this parish. I remember, some of you may remember when Father Sebastian went to led a pilgrimage to the Holy Land a couple of years ago. You know, I kept saying to him, you're going to go to Nazareth, you got to get some of the soil. And he'd say, no. I said, yes, we have the Shrine of Our Lady of La Leche, you have to get some of that soil. And he said, I don't get it. I said, you just do it. I want you to do it. Please get some soil for me. Well, he did. He has it. And now Liz has it. So that soil should be in the shrine itself, so that it's like a relic, right? You know that this is one of the most ancient pilgrimage sites right there. It's apparently a cave not too far from Bethlehem, when Herod was going to slaughter all the innocent young boys to try to kill Jesus. Mary, Joseph, and the young Jesus took refuge in a cave before they fled to Egypt. And the legend is that while Mary was nursing Jesus, a few drops of her milk fell to the ground and the soil there turned white. And people who visit that shrine say, yes, indeed, the soil there is white. So we do have some of that soil here in this parish. And to me, that's sacred ground, right? It really makes a special connection between the original shrine that goes back to the very, very, very beginnings of Christianity and here today. You know, I remember as well, this was maybe, I can't be sure of the year, maybe 2014, 2015, had to be 2015 at the latest, because that's when the shrine opened up. I remember I was driving with the bishop down to Ocala. We had some business down in Ocala, and both of us were heading down there. And talk about a teaser, you know, he says to me, I have something I want to ask you, Deacon, but if I ask you, you have to promise me you will keep it absolutely secret. Yes, okay, tell me, I'll keep it secret. He goes, you can't tell anyone. You can't tell your pastor. Do you understand? I said, okay, I won't tell anyone, you know. He said, I know how far St. Augustine is from this side of the diocese. I would like to establish a Western shrine of Our Lady of La Leche, so that people don't have to make the 2-hour drive to go all the ways to St. Augustine to the original shrine. And I'm thinking of doing it at your parish, St. Madeleine. What do you think? Well, I mean, what doesn't matter what I think, you know? I mean, you're going to do what you want to do. But I told him I thought it was a great idea. And then it wasn't too much time later that he spoke to Father Sebastian and told him. So he had this stirring in his mind for quite a while, and it wasn't just a random thing. It was this place was very carefully chosen because, of course, of the beautiful grounds that we have here, because of our ready access to Interstate 75. It's easy with the billboard, especially now, to find and so forth. And it's just such a beautiful, peaceful setting. So he knew that all along. He appreciated this parish for all those wonderful things. And now here we are. We have this shrine. Our bishop is very active in trying the cause for the canonization of the martyrs of Florida. He's working hard in that, and all of that plays such an important role, not just, of course, in the history of our church and the history of our faith, but even right here in Florida. You know, the history of our diocese and our time here in Florida. So, pilgrimages are one of the most beautifully, spiritually uplifting things you could do. And I know I don't need to tell you that. I'm sure everybody here has been on multiple pilgrimages to many places. But a pilgrimage, the act of journeying is so symbolic of our journey in life to our heavenly home. That's what a pilgrimage is, reminding us that we're on this journey here. And Marge, of course, is I mean, you know as well as I do, an absolute expert on the idea of pilgrimages and the spiritual benefits of pilgrimages. So I think I need to shut up here, and I think I need to introduce Marge. There are so many things I could say about her. She's most important of all. The number one accolade she holds is that of a wife and a mother, right? The most important job, I think, in the world today. That's often underrated by our society, but she's also, with that, an award-winning author, journalist, speaker, blogger, radio personality, TV personality. The list goes on and on. She's been on numerous shows. She's won many, many awards. I don't want to take up time just telling you, just trust me, she has so many things we could say about her. So instead of me standing up here talking, let me sit down and let the person come up who you came to hear tonight, and please welcome Marge Fenelon.
All right, just checking the mic. Good place for the mic to be. Got that. Go up. Okay. Are we going to do the echo thing yet? How is that? Better? Okay. Okay. Yeah, because it annoys me as well as you. I don't want that. Good evening.
Good evening.
I am super excited to be here. Super excited because I get to visit this shrine. I've never been here before. And then I get to talk about other shrines I visited. So I'm pumped. I'm pumped and I'm ready to go. I hope you are too. I hope you're ready to take a little bit of a journey with me this evening. We're going to be looking at 3 things. 4 things. There we go. All right, we're going to talk about what is a pilgrimage. What is a pilgrimage and why a Marion pilgrimage? Why a Marion pilgrimage? And then I'm going to give you witness from my own Marion pilgrimage. I'll be talking about that later. And then we'll summarize everything so you have a good solid message to go home with this evening. So, what is a pilgrimage? Now, I'm not talking about the very advertised. I'm trying to be kind of politically correct, but these, you know what I'm talking about. There are pilgrimages that are just advertised to the hilt, and oh, it's going to be fun, and you're going to stay in the best of hotels, and it's going to be this. That isn't what we're getting at when we go on pilgrimage. A real pilgrimage, is a holy journey to a sacred destination. That's the mini definition. A holy journey to a sacred destination. It's a time of searching. When we're on pilgrimage, we're searching. It's a calling. It's a calling. We're called to pilgrimage. We listen to that still small voice, and we understand that God is calling us to pilgrimage. And the purpose of pilgrimage is to atone for our sins, to live a spiritual experience, and to implore a particular grace or intention, or even a miracle. People go on pilgrimage asking for miracles. It's a time to draw closer to God and gain strength to more generously live our Christian faith. That's pilgrimage. A pilgrimage should cost something. And I don't mean money, all right? It should cost something in terms of self-imposed hardships. That's what we want. We take that upon ourselves. The simplicity, the lived simplicity during the pilgrimage. And then the difficulty of the route. Now, I think I need that one. I mean, I couldn't stand in the dark and talk to you, or probably, but anyway, the difficulty of the route, I don't just mean the route you walk, but I mean it should cost you something. It should not be easy to go on pilgrimage. So, pilgrimages are this idea, this custom, are as old as civilization itself. I was fascinated to find that out when I was doing research. As old as civilization itself. So in the ancient Near East, a portion of the harvest was carried to shrines and offered to the gods in Thanksgiving. Way back then. The Muslim law, I'm going to move this, all right, I think I'm kind of echoing people out here. Muslim law prescribes that Muslims must pilgrimage to Mecca at least once in their lifetime. In the Hindu faith, Hindus are obliged to pilgrimage to the holy city of Varanasi and bathe there in the sacred waters of the Ganges River. In the Old Testament, in the Christian tradition, I always want to point at the slide because I want to physically move it. In the Old Testament, pilgrimage starts already with Adam and Eve. With Adam and Eve, when they were exiled from the Garden of Eden after the fall. It was a pilgrimage. Cain was sent further into exile after he killed Abel. Pilgrimage, again, searching. Abraham's journey in Exodus. Perfect example. The Israelites traveled from Egypt through the wilderness to the promised land. Pilgrimage. Later, Jerusalem became the center of pilgrimage because of the temple, where God was encountered in a special way. Pilgrimage. They would travel there. Of the Jewish people, there were 3 annual pilgrimages required of all Jewish males. And often then they would take their families along, and it was Passover, weeks, and booths. Way back then, they were already doing pilgrimages. In the New Testament, it picks up on this idea of pilgrimage, but the focus is different. In the New Testament, pilgrimage is more geared toward redemption. So Jesus' entire ministry was a pilgrimage. From birth to crucifixion, he journeyed homeward to the Father. That whole New Testament, our Lord was on pilgrimage. For Christians, there are few acts as rich in history, tradition, or spirituality as pilgrimage. As Deacon mentioned, it's rich. It's so rich that the word pilgrimage has become a metaphor for life itself. We're on pilgrimage. I'm sure you hear that often, especially in the liturgies. We hear this. Since the early 2nd century, think about this, the 2nd century, pilgrims would travel long distances to the Holy Land to venerate the places where our Lord Jesus, our Blessed Mother, St. Joseph, and the apostles had been present, those holy places, because of their presence there. In the 4th century, the Emperor Constantine converted to Christianity, made Christianity legal, and then he and his mother Helena became 2 of the most influential pilgrims of their time. It was Constantine who discovered Christ's tomb, and his mother, Helena, who discovered the true cross. Now, once those discoveries were made known, word spread, and the pilgrimage movement began in full force. In full force. They became common. Pilgrimages became so common. They went, to the Holy Land, to Rome, to also Greece and Egypt, to follow in the footsteps of the apostles. In the Middle Ages, pilgrimages became a significant part of Christian devotion. And in the 11th century, indulgences were intertwined with pilgrimage. For example, there was a special indulgence reserved for crusaders departing for the Holy Land. So now you have pilgrimage and indulgences working together here. Through Europe, people started to build churches and cathedrals, housing the relics of the Holy Family, the apostles, the saints. We just lost Notre Dame, but what was in there? Important relics. That's part of our history of pilgrimage. Throngs of people started going on pilgrimage, from the common folk to the parish priests to the emperors, even popes, going on pilgrimage to venerate these holy places, these relics of the saints. But why a Marian pilgrimage? Why a Marian pilgrimage? Because of our veneration of the Blessed Mother. That's part of who we are as Catholics. That's part of what we're called to do, is to venerate our dear Blessed Mother. In the Catechism, it says, what the Catholic faith believes about Mary is based on what it believes about Christ, and what it teaches about Mary illumines in turn its faith in Christ. They're together. You can't separate them. That's why Marian pilgrimage. When our Blessed Mother gave her fiat, her yes, she said yes to being Christ's mother, the head, but then she said at that same moment, she said yes to being our mother, the body. You cannot separate the head and the body. Christ is the head. We are the body. She said yes to being our mother at that moment. As well, the Catechism says, well, it's in the Catechism, but specifically, Pope Paul VI said, we believe that the Holy Mother of God, the new Eve, Mother of the Church, continues in heaven to exercise her maternal role on behalf of the members of Christ. So it wasn't just once that she said yes. She says yes every single day of our lives, forever and ever, every day. Yes, yes to being our mother. Here's the way the Catechism, and I do refer to the Catechism a lot because I think we need to know the Catechism. It's the crux of our faith. All right? So this is what it says in 969, paragraph 969. This motherhood of Mary in the order of grace continues uninterruptedly from the consent which she loyally gave at the Annunciation, and which she sustained without wavering beneath the cross, until the eternal fulfillment of all the elect. Taken up to heaven, she did not lay aside this saving office, but by her manifold intercession continues to bring us the gifts of eternal salvation. Therefore, the Blessed Virgin is invoked in the Church under the title of Advocate, Helper, Benefactrix, and Mediatrix. Her role, this special role given to her by our Lord himself, allows her to distribute graces in abundance and effectively intercede for us, and to dwell in her places of grace here on earth. She has that privilege. It's her duty. And she does it so beautifully, doesn't she? How many were you all at Mass? How beautiful it was to be there and to be here in this place. All right. I'd like to give some witness from my own Marian pilgrimage. In 2016, I had a stirring in my heart. Now, if you remember, and I'm sure you do, that was a very difficult time for our country. The elections, there were political and ideological divisions. There were divisions even in the church. there was an increasing godlessness. It seemed to me that godlessness was rapidly increasing at that point in time, in general. And this really hurt. It hurt me deeply. And I asked the Blessed Mother, I prayed, and I asked her, what can I do? What can I do to change the course of these divisions? What would you like me to do? What could I do? And what I wanted to do was to foster unity again in our country and to rekindle love for our country. I love my country. I think we all do, but it started looking like we weren't so in love with our country anymore. We had people threatening to leave our country because things weren't going the way they desired. So I wanted to rekindle that love for our country and rediscover or help folks to discover for the first time our rich Catholic heritage. Hardly anybody knows about that, how very rich our Catholic heritage is in this country. And of course I wanted to encourage love for Mary and her places of grace. And so I set out on pilgrimage to these places, 9 Marion pilgrimage sites coast to coast. And I chose them for a few reasons, very specifically. For their historical significance, for their Marian attachment, and for the graces and the titles that were offered there. So these journeys ended up in this book, My Queen, My Mother, A Living Novena. As I was journeying, I took notes, like serious notes, notebooks and notebooks and notebooks, knowing that what I wanted to do when I returned home from each of these trips was to recreate that place for my reader, so that when the reader prayed through the book, the reader could actually feel as though they were with me there, that they could travel to these places and get to know our Blessed Mother in these beautiful places of grace. And why a novena? I formed it into novena. I chose 9. I could do 100 more of these books. There are so many places dedicated to our Blessed Mother in this country. But I wanted it to be in novena form so that we could pray together for exactly those goals I mentioned prior. Unity, love of Mary, love of country, and appreciation of our very rich Catholic heritage in the U.S. And so here's where I went. So the Shrine of Our Lady of La Leche in St. Augustine. Okay, that's the Wisconsin way. St. Augustine. I know. In Wisconsin, it's St. Augustine. I do apologize. Every time I catch myself, but not soon enough, apparently. The National Shrine of Our Lady of Prompt Succor in New Orleans, Louisiana. St. Mary's Mission and Museum in Stevensville, Montana. The Shrine of Our Lady of Sorrows in Starkenburg, Missouri. The Basilica and National Shrine of Our Lady of Consolation in Cary, Ohio. The National Shrine of Our Lady of Good Help in Champion, Wisconsin. The Shrine of Our Lady of Martyrs in Orisville, New York. The House of Mary Shrine in Yankton, South Dakota. And Our Lady of Peace Shrine in Santa Clara, California. Now, we're going to do a little pop quiz. How many of you have heard of all 9 of those? 8. 7? 6? 5. Somebody heard of 5? Yes? No? 4? 3? All right, this is good. 2? Okay, 1. Okay, that's my point. That's my point. That we don't even realize, and I didn't even realize until I started looking up, researching this. We don't realize how many places there are available to us here in our country where our Blessed Mother is there waiting for us. So, people ask me all the time, the most frequently asked question is, which one is your favorite? And the answer is, they all are. And that's not a cop-out. It really is true, because there are so many impressions that I have taken away from those journeys. So many impressions of so many different kinds of things and experiences. And each of those places that I visited, and places that I continue to visit even after the book is written, each is absolutely unique. Even when you have two shrines of the same name, each is absolutely unique. Absolutely. With its own special mission and its own specific Marion character. Every single one. It's miraculous. And it's happening now in our country. I can share with you, I will share with you, not 3 of my favorite places, but 3 of my favorite memories from my journey. And one comes from the National Shrine of Our Lady of Prompt Succor in New Orleans. So succor is quick help. So think of it as Our Lady of Quick Help. And I can't say succor the French way, so I say it the way the people at the shrine do. But basically it's the French word for quick help. In 1727, the French Ursuline nuns came to the New World, to New Orleans, and they established a girls' school. Now that girls' school is still running. It is the oldest currently operating girls' school in the whole United States. And they're bursting at the seams. It's beautiful to see, just beautiful to see. In 1803, there was a crisis. And some of the nuns had to flee to Cuba. And a few of them stayed. A few of them stayed to kind of hold down the fort, so to speak. Well, the superior, Mother Saint Andre, wrote to her cousin in France, Mother Saint Michael, and begged her to come and help. Because she'd lost a good number of her sisters and still had to keep this going. Well, Mother Saint Michael wrote to Bishop Fournier, her bishop, and asked permission to make the journey. Bishop Fournier said, no, I can't give you permission. And it was because only the Pope could grant permission for such a move. That's all well and good, except that the Pope at that time was a prisoner of Napoleon. So how in the world was Mother St. Michael going to get permission to go help her cousin in the New World, in America? So, woman of confidence, she wrote the Pope anyway and sent the letter off. And she sent it with a promise to the Blessed Mother. And she prayed, O most holy Virgin Mary, if you obtain a prompt and favorable answer to my letter, I promise to have you honored in New Orleans under the title Our Lady of Prompt Succor. Within about 3 weeks, she had a reply from the Pope, thanking her for her generosity and saying, yes, go. Yes, go. In Thanksgiving, Mother St. Michael commissioned a statue of Our Lady of Prompt Succor and had it brought from France. And in 1810, they enthroned that statue in the shrine. Now the cool part. That's all cool, but this is really cool. How many of you know about the miracle of the Battle of New Orleans? Not just the battle, the historical facts. Okay, I didn't either until I went. I went there. Here's what happened, what really happened. You're not going to find it in history books. That battle was won because of the intercession of Our Lady of Prompt Succor. And I wrote it better the first time, so I'm going to go back to my book and I'm going to share with you this incredible miracle. Now, as I tell you the story of the miracle, keep one thing in mind. Andrew Jackson, who led the American forces, was not a believer. Okay? He did not believe in God at all. So here's what happened. Surprisingly, the most remarkable battle of the War of 1812 happened after the war had ended. On December 24th, 1814, Great Britain and the United States signed a treaty that essentially ended the war. These were the days long before cell phones and internet, and news traveled slowly. It took a long time for word to get across the ocean that the conflict had ended. Without knowledge of the treaty, the British and American soldiers believed they were still at war. On January 8, 1815, the two sides met in what turned out to be the War of 1812's most decisive engagement, the bloody Battle of New Orleans. Future American President Andrew Jackson led a misfit band of militia fighters, frontiersmen, farmers, slaves, Native Americans, and even, I love this part, even pirates in an attack against the superior British forces. They were vastly outnumbered and severely under-equipped, yet they managed to inflict devastating casualties on their opponents, and they won the battle against all odds. The Battle of New Orleans foiled the plans for British invasion of the American frontier. Now imagine if the Americans would have lost. The turning point in our history. The Battle of New Orleans foiled the plans for British invasion of the American frontier and boosted Jackson to lasting national fame. History books don't record one of the most important background details of the battle, however. As the British army of nearly 10,000 soldiers was advancing toward New Orleans, the Americans, with only cotton bales for fortifications, awaited them. The women of the city fled to the Ursuline convent chapel and spent the night there with the nuns, praying before the statue of Our Lady of Prompt Succor. There was a rumor that General Jackson would set the city ablaze rather than let the British capture it. On the morning of January 8th, the Vicar General celebrated Mass on the main altar. Before the Mass ended, a messenger appeared to announce that the battle was over and had been won by Jackson and his troops. The battle in its entirety had lasted less than 20 minutes. Jackson, who was not a believer, went to the convent to personally thank the Ursulines for their prayers, sharing a special supper with them in celebration and thanksgiving. He admitted that there most certainly was a divine interposition in the battle. In a January 19, 1815 letter addressed to Louisiana Bishop DeVord and intended for the Ursuline sisters, Jackson wrote, "The signal interposition of heaven in giving success to our arms against the enemy, who so lately landed on our shores, while it must excite in every bosom attached to the happy government under which we live emotions of the liveliest gratitude, requires at the same time some external manifestation of those feelings." Extraordinary. Even a skeptic, Jackson, had to admit that prayer can and does affect the course of history. It's through the prayers of the Ursulines and the intercession of Our Lady of Prompt Succor that the Battle of New Orleans was miraculously won and our American independence was preserved for future generations. The same independence that we enjoy today. Pretty cool, huh? I love that. So that's why it's one of my favorite memories. This is a picture of the letter. It's actually not the actual letter. It's one of the other letters that got sent during that time. But it's impossible. It's in a glass case, so you can see it, but it was impossible to photograph it, and they could not take it out for me. So, but I wanted to give you kind of the look of how the letter was laid out and the great penmanship that they used in those days. There were other miracles as well, however. The Great Fire of New Orleans in 1788. During this horrible fire, so it was ready to take down the entire city of New Orleans. It threatened, of course, the convent and the adjacent buildings, which would have also meant the girls' school and the dorms and so on. The nuns, of course, needed to prepare to evacuate because the fire was coming and they needed to get out of there to save and get the girls out. Well, one of the nuns, before vacating, before evacuating, she placed a little statue of the Blessed Mother in the window facing out toward the fire. And she prayed, "Our dear Lady, come quick to our help, or we are lost." Immediately, the wind changed direction, and the Ursuline property was spared, but not only that, but the rest of New Orleans was spared. Amazing. They nicknamed, now no one really knows why, but they nicknamed this beautiful little statue Sweetheart. Something makes me think of the Bishop story, Sweetheart. It's so perfect. I was smiling. But they nicknamed her Sweetheart. And she also became kind of a patroness for soldiers. So before they would go off to war, they would go there and pray to Sweetheart to bring them home safely. And there are more stories than anybody could record of soldiers who came back safely when they really were in the faith. They probably should have lost their lives, but for Sweetheart's protection. So that's Sweetheart. I love that. All right. There we go. Now, let's go on to the shrine of Our Lady of Sorrows in Starkenburg, Missouri, which began with St. Martin's Church. So St. Martin's Church was founded in 1847 by German immigrant settlers. Why? It was on the banks of the Missouri River, and it reminded them of the Rhineland. It reminded them of home. So that was the perfect place for them to settle. Well, in that time, there were very few priests. Very, very few priests. And the priests had to travel from town to town to administer the sacrament. So, you didn't get Sunday Mass every single Sunday. You had to wait for the priest to come around again. Well, in Starkenburg, the Mass was always set in a barn. And in that barn was a statue of the Blessed Mother that had been nicknamed the White Lady. No one really knows where that statue came from. Even the historians, the shrine historians, they don't know. But it was there. The White Lady was there. And so they honored her. They honored the statue. A year later, so in 1848, they received a charter to form a parish. So the church was founded and they received the charter for the parish. And they built a small log chapel for the White Lady. And it was in 1852. As was their custom, they would take the statue on procession around the ground. They had 40 acres of land, beautiful, beautiful land. They would take her on procession for feast days, special holy days, and in petition when they really were in need of something in prayer. In 1872, they built a stone chapel for the White Lady. In 1873, the statue was placed in that stone church. But a few years later, unfortunately, the White Lady was replaced and was relegated to attic storage. So they kind of lost her. Until in 1887, their new pastor, Father Hone, found the White Lady again. And he regenerated love for that particular statue. He built a main altar for her, and then they built a little log hut for her. And a large donation about that time allowed them to purchase this sorrowful mother statue and place that in the stone chapel. So the White Lady had her log chapel, and sorrowful mother had her stone chapel. There are two miracles associated with that statue. Two, I want to say, they're not church approved, but they had countless witnesses. One, in 1891, there had been 6 weeks of torrential rains. Rained so hard, day and night, the farmers couldn't get into their fields. These Germans were farmers. So that meant they couldn't plant their crops, and this threatened their livelihood. Well, what did they do? They took the Blessed Mother on procession in the rain and prayed and prayed and prayed. Well, what do you think happened? During the procession, the rain stopped, everything dried up, and the farmers were able to get into their fields, plant the crops, and they all survived. Not only survived, but thrived. They thrived. In 1894, it was a similar situation, but the reverse. So there had been a severe drought, and so they took the Blessed Mother on procession around the grounds, and during the procession, the drought ended, and down came the rain, and saved the crops once again. Countless other miracles have been given witness to in that place. One of them, I find, is just incredible. So in 1935, there was a young woman who had been infected with polio, and one of her legs was shorter than the other, and this caused problems. The leg needed help. It needed medical attention. They needed to do something. On the land there at Our Lady of Sorrows, they have what they call the Lord's Grotto. So it's a Lord's Grotto, basically. I mean, it's not the exact Lord's, but they built it to look a replica of the original. And what they do is on a regular basis, they mix water from Lourdes, France, in with the water there. And these parents, the parents of this young woman, would take her there every week and wash the leg in the water and pray for a miracle. This went on week after week after week after week. Well, finally it came time to make a decision. She just needed something to be done with that leg. It didn't look like there was going to be a miracle. So they scheduled surgery. The day of surgery, the medical team was ready. The woman was prepared for surgery. The surgeon comes in and he stops everything. And he says, there's no need for surgery. There's absolutely nothing wrong with her leg. She'd been cured. She'd been cured. So she left her shoe there in Thanksgiving, and it's still there. It's still there. She left her shoe there in Thanksgiving. I want to share with you some impressions from my time there. And again, it's always better the first time around. So, as I walked the grounds of the shrine of Our Lady of Sorrows in Starkenburg, Missouri, it was as if I could hear the whisper of history. Perhaps it was because it was a warm and sunny mid-October day. Perhaps it was because it was a quiet Monday and fewer folks were visiting than during the rest of the week. Perhaps it was the solitude of its rural location. It's very rural. It's out in farm country. Or perhaps history really was whispering to me. St. Martin's Catholic Church continued to be an active parish until 1979, when it was merged with St. Joseph's Catholic Church in Rhineland to form the Church of the Risen Savior in Rhineland, which continues to administer the site. St. Martin's Catholic Church is no longer used as a worship space and has been converted into a museum with all of the altar linens, decorations, furnishings, and so on kept intact and in place, including the missals and songbooks. It feels as if Sunday Mass might begin at any moment, and it's at once eerie and breathtaking. There is a melancholy spirit there, a memory of old world traditions, and the people who worked so hard to bring the parish to life. The sacristy also is a museum space with photographs, vestments, mass vessels, old German hymnals, sacramentals, and artifacts dating all the way back to the original German immigrants. I've seen dozens upon dozens of museums in my travels, many of them religiously themed, but I have never seen one like St. Martin's Catholic Church. Initially, I found it unsettling. Why can't this gorgeous church be used for liturgies, at least on occasion? I asked the shrine's historian. She answered, "You wouldn't want to sell such a beautiful church, especially when it once was home to our Lord Jesus Christ in the tabernacle. If you emptied it, where would you go with all the beautiful furnishings and artifacts? It's such an important part of our heritage here that we didn't want to let go of it. And so we decided to make it into a museum that people could visit so that they could see exactly what a Midwest Catholic church was like in the 1800s. Then I got it. Turning St. Martin Catholic Church into a museum wasn't an act of stowing away the past, but of making it accessible to the future. The entire complex is a testament testimony to the grit, hard work, and devotion of the German immigrants to the area, and a tribute to their enduring faith. The grounds of the shrine are stunningly beautiful and enchantingly peaceful. There were other cars in the parking lot the day I visited, but I was never aware of another human presence because everything was enveloped in a sacred silence. Yet that silence is filled with the voices of the past, of hearts pouring out their worries, fears, distress, and gratitude to their sorrowful mother, our sorrowful mother. Walking the grounds, I merely had to close my eyes to see the German immigrants, weathered, hopeful, and completely devoted to our sorrowful mother, making their way in procession over the property. I could hear the bells ring, summoning the faithful to Mass, and I could smell the incense from the altar boy's censer. History came alive for me that day as I nestled myself into Mary's heart at the shrine of Our Lady of Sorrows, and I felt a tangible connection to the German immigrants who had made it all possible. Who had made it all possible. I just want to show you the art. Now, moving on. The Shrine of Our Lady of Martyrs in Voorheesville, New York. How many are familiar with the North American martyrs? Okay, that's all right. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm telling you this. Voorheesville, New York, so upstate New York. The shrine was founded in 1884 by Jesuit Father Joseph Loisance. You gotta see the inside of this thing. It's huge. It seats 6,000 people. Wow. 6,000 people. This just doesn't do it justice. It's like, it's big. It's big. Well, they started with 10 acres, and now the land spans 600 acres. 600 acres. It's built on the site of a Mohawk village called Ossernenon. Ossernenon. This place marks the site of martyrdom of Saint Isaac Jogues, Rene Goupil, and John Land, his two companions. They were martyred there in the 1640s. Also, around that time, there were 5 Jesuits who had been martyred in Canada. And so to get all 8 of them together form the 8 North American martyrs, and they are honored at that shrine. It's also the birthplace of Saint Kateri Tekakwitha. So she was born also in this place. In 1642, Saint Isaac Jogues and Rene Goupil's party of 22 were captured in a raid. For 2 weeks, they were taken along the Mohawk River. Now, this is deceiving because the river is way, way down there, down Big Hill. So it's a steep hill going to the river. For 2 weeks, they were taken by canoe along the Mohawk River, stopping at different Mohawk villages, where each time they had to get off the canoe, climb this steep embankment, and run the gauntlet, where they were stripped naked, they were clubbed, they had their fingers gnawed. There's worse stuff. I'm not going to get into all of it because it's really awful. Please read their story if you can bring yourself to it. It's unbelievable. They had their flesh burned with hot coals or lighted torches. They had their hair and beards plucked out by the roots. They had wounds, old wounds reopened, on and on, on and on and on. 2 weeks of this. Stopping. Finally, poor St. Isaac Jogues ended up having several of his fingers severed, including the canonical fingers, so the fingers that the priest needs for the consecration, so that he could not say Mass. They knew. Gnaw them off. In this area, used to be the village, St. Isaac Jogues and Rene Goupil were kept prisoner for a time. after this 2-week ordeal. Well, at one point, Rene Goupil either baptized or made the sign of the cross over a Mohawk child. We're not sure. It's not sure what he was doing, but the child's grandfather saw it. And he was a village elder. And he suspected that Goupil was casting some kind of evil spell on his grandchild and ordered Goupil's death. So a few days later, he was ambushed, and he had his skull split open by a very angry brave with a tomahawk. His remains, his body, was dumped into this ravine, which is across the road from the shrine, the place where I just showed you. It was dumped into the ravine, and when he could, St. Isaac Jogues went to search, and he found Rene Goupil's body with rocks. He submerged it in the creek, planning to go back to it later to bury it, but spring floods came and carried it away. But the following spring, St. Isaac Jogues was able to find at least his skull and a few bones. And so he buried them in this ravine. Now, in our Catholic faith, we believe that anyone martyred for their faith automatically becomes a saint. And when you have the remains or some part of a saint in a place, then it's a reliquary worthy of veneration. That makes this entire ravine a reliquary. And I really want to share with you what that was like for me walking through that ravine. I'm going to find that. The grounds are both ominous and glorious. Mohawk longhouses and the platforms on which prisoners were shamed, burned, and mutilated once stood there. One can look down the steep hill descending to the Mohawk River, the same hill that Father Jogues and Rene Goupil, already beaten, maimed, and weakened, were made to ascend through a gauntlet of enraged, armed Mohawk warriors. Reverence, sadness, awe, and gratitude filled my heart. I prayed that if faced with the same circumstances, I would be as courageous. Across the road is the ravine where Father Jogues buried Rene Goupil's remains. The paved pathway leading down the hill is lined with placards telling Goupil's incredible story. Each step leads one's heart deeper into the reality of this man's astounding sacrifice of faith. More pathways wind through and around the ravine, along which are statues and places of devotion, including a lovely outdoor Marion shrine at its center. There is silence but for the muffled footsteps of pilgrims prayerfully wandering the sacred ground that has been soaked with the blood of martyrs. I stayed in the ravine for a good part of the afternoon in awe. Over and over, the tears flowed down my cheeks as I realized the significance of the land upon which I stood. The ground itself commanded reverence, and that reverence poured out of my heart. I tried to pray, but I couldn't. Not anything intelligible, that is. The only thing that came from my lips was, "Thank you," repeated until my throat became dry. I was indeed treading on ground that has been soaked with the blood of martyrs. Unbelievable. And people don't know that these things exist in our country. You know, I hear so many, and it's a good thing to travel to distant places where the Blessed Mothers appeared, you know, these holy places. But right here, we've got them right here in our country. Right here. It's fabulous. It's miraculous. I'm going to move one more step because I want to spend more time here on this beautiful holy place. And I think some of you recognize this, yes? Who knows this shrine? All right, but I want to look again at this. Now Deacon mentioned mention some of the history of this shrine, but I want to go back now. I want to go back and revisit that now that you've heard these other histories and stories. All right, so Our Lady of Leche. Deacon mentioned that name that comes from the grotto in Bethlehem, the cave where the Holy Family hid during the slaughter of the innocents. And so some of Our Ladies, as he mentioned, some of Our Ladies' milk spilled, turned it white, and many, many, many miracles now have happened there because of that. Well, in 65, Spanish explorers came to this world, to St. Augustine, and brought with them their devotion to Our Lady of Leche. They had a strong devotion to her under that title. It was at that site that the first ever Catholic Mass was said on U.S. soil. The first ever. Was also the first Marion shrine on U.S. soil. The missionaries then, spread out from there and founded more than 200 missions throughout Florida and beyond. Santa Fe is one of them. Holy Faith is one of the missions that were founded. Right now, there are 54 martyrdom events undergoing investigation. And that was mentioned previously as well. The blood of martyrs has made this ground that we're on, spiritually fertile. The blood of martyrs, right here in High Springs. In 2015, we know that the Year of Mercy, in lieu of the Year of Mercy and the 450th anniversary of the St. Augustine Shrine, Bishop Estevez mandated that there should be a shrine to Our Lady of Leche on the west side of the diocese, since Our Lady of Leche is co-patroness of the Diocese of St. Augustine. Our Mother dwells here. Right here. Our Mother dwells here. She works miracles here. They're not all documented. Probably many of them don't even get mentioned to anyone else. But she's doing it. Right here. And right here, from right here, she's calling to her children. She's waiting for them to come visit her. She's waiting for you to come visit her. Right here in her shrine. Right here. Pope Paul VI said a very profound thing about Marian shrines. And I want to read that quote, and I want you then to think now of this beautiful place here and of the beautiful places we talked about. Marian shrines, he said, encapsulate the testimonies of miraculous deeds and of a continual wave of devotion, but also cultivate a sense of atmosphere such as luminous stars in the church's sky. Isn't that beautiful? Mm-hmm. Luminous stars in the church's sky. There's a sad reality that I came across when I was doing my journeys, and that is this. Many of the Marian pilgrimage sites in our country are being threatened with extinction. Why is that? Lack of funding, lack of volunteers, lack of visitors. Now, it doesn't seem like you have that difficulty here, and I doubt you ever will. But this is something for us to keep in mind. To be grateful for what we have here, and to make it known. Don't let it happen here. Don't let it happen. Here and everywhere you spread the word, please. So we visit these places and we keep them alive or bring them back to life. Our Blessed Mother must reclaim our country. She must. And how is she going to do that? Us. She needs our help to reclaim our country. So keep this shrine bursting at the seams with life. Keep it going. And then help others at other Marion sites. Invite them. Let them know. Make them know. Research them yourself. Just all you have to do is go to your browser and search Marion shrines in the United States. And you will get all kinds of them popping up. Learn about them. And be knowledgeable about them. I don't mean you have to be an expert. I don't mean you have to travel, spend 3 years traveling to them all, like I attempted to do anyway. Got 9 of them. But please, we have to do this. Our Blessed Mother needs us right now in a big way. In a really big way. And so, I just want to summarize. And I'll summarize again from the end of my book. It's tragic that large numbers of Marian pilgrimage places are little known and rarely visited. It's a shame that often they must cut budgets and reduce hours of operation for lack of funding and people to run them. There's a beautiful history behind every one of them, and Mary has chosen a special title and mission for herself at each site. She'll continue her presence and mission for as long as she's welcome. And it's up to us to extend that welcome. So, before I close, I implore you once again, extend that welcome, please. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Marge. That was absolutely beautiful. Two things that it really makes you want to go on some of the, return to some of the Marian pilgrimages that I've made in past years, but it also reminded me how blessed we are right here to have the shrine of Our Lady of La Leche. There's only one person to thank for that, and that is our Lord Jesus Christ for allowing us this devotion to his mother over here. There again, Marge's books are for sale. I think we still have raffle tickets. If anyone wants to take a chance to win that beautiful statue of Our Lady of La Leche, as I said, it's $8.50 right now, and the raffles are scheduled for $9.15. You don't have to be present to win. So this is a good opportunity if you have not bought a ticket, or maybe you want to buy a few more. Again, as Marge said, these shrines need financial help, and these raffles are how we can do that. There's a couple of thank yous that need to be said, several thank yous. I know I am not going to get myself in trouble by trying to list individuals, because I'll forget somebody. So many people I know have worked so hard to put this event on. I didn't do anything, but I got to witness the email traffic and so forth. And it's been in preparation for months and months. But there is one person I do want to single out, and that is, where is she? Where's Liz? Liz Kennedy. She's somewhere. There she is. The most organized, detail-oriented person I have ever seen. And of course, we want to thank our pastor here at St. Madeleine, Marge, for allowing us
to use this beautiful facility for this. Even though he couldn't make it because he was not feeling well, Father Al Esposito from Queen of Peace in Gainesville, who is certainly with us in spirit and probably wishes he certainly could be with us. So we thank him because he was involved. Father Roland Julian, former pastor of this parish, right? One of the people who founded the Catholic Church in Florida. He said almost. And just a big thank you that goes out to so many people. So until we have our raffle drawings, which will be in Liz still? In 10 minutes, okay, so it's 8:53 now, let's say right around 9 o'clock, I'll come back and we'll have the drawing for the book that Marge has so graciously offered, as well as for the statue of Our Lady of La Leche. If we have children that need to be picked up, are they in the activity center or are they here? None, okay. So I think that that's it in terms of announcements. Again, thank you to all of you for coming out here today, braving the thunder and the rain, and to be here. This was a wonderful turnout. Enjoy your time remaining with the shopping, with the raffle and so forth, and have a safe ride home. I hope to see you at our next event. Thank you and God bless you all.